Well, hello and welcome. Welcome to the Playa Venao show. My name is Mo. Next to me is Ben. And we're doing another show today. And this is our first show that we're doing kind of indoors without our desk.
Indoor-outdoor show.
I guess indoor-outdoor. Everything's kind of indoor-outdoor in Panama, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So how was your weekend, man? Anything new? Anything good?
Yeah, we have Granddad in town. Granddad from Canada. So he, even though we just saw him at Christmas time, he has taken the trip back, even though it's been a few weeks, because I think they've only had something like 30 hours of sunlight this winter.
Oh my gosh!
So he was like, I know we just saw you, but do you mind if I come down to escape the cold, to escape the gloomy days a little bit? So yeah, he's been in town. We've just been enjoying. He can't believe it. Every time he comes here, he sees all these kids running around, sees everyone feeling so healthy, so happy, and yeah, we've been loving just hanging out with him.
I was shocked to hear him say how many. He was completely floored with how many kids were in jiu-jitsu class.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a lot of kids in jiu-jitsu class. He was awestruck by it, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know what else we had in town this weekend? We had a big swell come into town this weekend.
It was big.
And everybody was talking about the surf.
Yeah.
Everybody was surfing. I mean, it was. I think people like skipped out on work and, forego. How do you say they
played hooky?
Yeah, they played hooky from their responsibilities so they could get out in the swell and whatnot. So
yeah, I got beat up out there. It was a little big for a surfer of my level. Let's put it that way.
Listen, I'm proud of you for going out there.
Thank
because
you, it was a good workout.
Yeah, I still haven't gone out there.
Yeah.
Let's see, what did I do this weekend? My big thing is I'm on a 30-day ice bath challenge.
Yeah.
So, Sunday was my day 7 of ice baths, and I've been doing it every single morning, first thing in the morning, and I feel fantastic. So, I do the ice bath for 3 minutes, 33 seconds, then I get out, go jump in the ocean, play around in the ocean for about 3 to 5 minutes, then go hose off, eat my breakfast, and I feel amazing for the rest of the day.
Champion's morning right there.
It's pretty good. I
Yeah.
feel pretty lucky to
That's
be able to
awesome.
do that kind of stuff. So, anyway, we're pretty excited about the show today. We're going to have Dr. Burt on. Dr. Burt is somebody that I met about a year ago in Playa Venao at a party, and he's got a tremendous and interesting story to share with us. Lived in many countries, and I can't wait to hear all of the stories. I've only heard about 0.5% of his background, so we're going to do a deep dive into that today and learn a little bit more about him. And other than that, should be a pretty good interview.
Look forward to it.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk to Dr. Burt. All right, guys. Thanks for having us today. I know that was kind of loud, just right out of the chute.
You sound good in the headphones.
Was it? Okay, good. Well, welcome to the Playa Venao show. My name is Mo. Sitting next to me is Ben, and sitting next to me on the other side is Dr. Burt. And today we are interviewing Dr. Burt. We met for the first time about a year ago at Sarah's birthday party. Playita on the beach.
On the beach.
Yeah, on the beach. And that was a pretty eventful day. Charlie and I were pretty new to the area, and that was our first kind of big party experience where we started to meet some of the locals of Venao and whatnot.
Yeah,
so,
I remember that day.
Yeah,
we spoke just a couple of minutes.
Yep, it was a brief couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But it was a very eventful day between the party and then the boys rescuing some kayakers. Do you remember that when the boys were?
I remember that.
So for the audience, there were a couple of kayakers that were tooling around this little cove called Playita, and it's a great place to swim and whatnot. But the kayaks got waterlogged from waves coming in. They'd gotten too close to the rocks, and they were kept on getting pushed and banged against the rocks. So it took 3 surfers on their boards to come out and paddle and move those kayaks off the rocks. And you didn't have to use any of your doctor skills that day.
I didn't. I didn't have to that day.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Dr. Aaron? Where are you from first
First,
off?
just call me Aaron.
Okay, I'll just call you
Just
Aaron.
just
That'd
me
be
Aaron.
good.
I was born in San Diego, California, but I was raised in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so when that twang comes out,
Uh-huh.
especially if I have a couple of Balboas in me,
Sure.
and it starts getting twangy, that's Nashville coming through. So, if I go back to see my parents, both of my parents, they still live in Nashville, outside of Nashville, Tennessee. Although, living on the beach, my claim is San Diego, California,
Sure.
which is where I was born.
So was your folks in the military at the time?
Yeah, that's why we're there. My dad, I was born in 1969. My dad was in the Navy. He was in a Navy corpsman school in San Diego, Balboa Island. And I was born there. My brother was born there. And then my father went back to North Louisiana, where he's from, to finish up his doctorate degree. And then he got his first corporate job as a pharmaceutical rep in Nashville, Tennessee. And I think I was 4 when we moved to Nashville.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of a weird coincidence. I don't necessarily believe in coincidences. Were you born at Balboa Naval Hospital by
Yes, I
chance?
was.
So was I.
No way.
I swear to God. I was born at Balboa Naval Hospital.
Thought you looked familiar.
Yeah, dude, I was there 4 or 5 years later, but yeah, I was born at Balboa Naval Hospital as well.
I was born at Balboa Naval Hospital.
That's
hysterical.
and then I went back to Balboa Naval Hospital when I was 21 to get my wisdom teeth pulled because they were so, tucked in there. But yeah, my father was also in the military. He was in the Marine Corps, and
Wow, amazing.
that's a small world.
That's amazing.
I was born there too. No.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's the accent. You can tell. I guess that's a
it's
San Diego accent.
Maybe we're just drawn to the beach. Huh?
That's it.
Oh, that's too wild.
That's cool.
So, what was like growing up like in Tennessee?
It was great in the sense that I grew up in the country. We were so out far in the country. There was a rule that you couldn't hunt deer near the house. That was growing up in the country. They would come down. You would have deers coming in, eating the dog food, and you could go out and walk, and you could get lost. Like rescue team needed to find you lost. It was just there was so much wilderness around my house. It was great. I have great parents. Just amazing parents. And, you had to mature fast because I was 45 minutes, it was 30 minutes on the interstate to get to my high school. I was driving at 15, also working at 15. My parents were middle class, but if anything that you needed extra, wanted extra, you had to work for it.
Right.
I lied about my age to work at Taco Bell when I was 15. Because my dad said, yeah, you can go to spring break with your friends, but I'm not paying for it.
Wow.
So I was rolling burrito supremes.
Yeah.
Hence my culinary skills.
You make a mean burrito.
Yeah, mean burrito supreme.
So was Nashville the spot where you felt like you started to become kind of connected to nature?
Yeah, I grew up, and I remember just as a kid being out in nature and always wanted to be alone in nature. And it was funny because, I remember with my brother, I've got a brother who's a year older than me, and all the friends were around, and we'd always go out and play cowboys and Indians, and I was always the Indian by choice. I always wanted to be the Indian, and I always wanted to be out in nature and just doing things with my hands and really just being in touch with Mother Earth. I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved it. And there were 2 rivers right by my house. And we grew up in those rivers, and just grew up in the water in those rivers.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So how did that life lead you towards medicine?
Well, it led me towards chiropractic.
Okay.
And how that started was, when I got out of high school, I went to, like I said, my dad's from North Louisiana. So my dream was to go to LSU, Louisiana State University. I grew up watching him play football. Part of the family tradition, Saturdays putting on the purple and gold, and I actually went to LSU, and I was actually in my 5th year of university. I was getting a degree, just a general studies college degree. I really had no idea what I wanted to do, and my sister started dating and eventually married this amazing guy named Andrew Dixon, and he was a chiropractor. And Andy had moved to Nashville, to our city, to open an office, and had met my sister, and my sister's 2 years older than me, and she's just she's the love of my life. I've always thought she was the prettiest girl in the world. 2 years older sister.
Sure.
She was the coolest girl on the planet. She met this great guy, and he's the one that really introduced me to chiropractic.
Oh.
I was a competitive wrestler in high school, and so my father was taking me from the age of about 14 to chiropractors to work on my neck, work on my shoulders from wrestling injuries. Wow. And I was getting better. So I knew about chiropractic. And then when I met Andy, he was really the one who was like, man, you really would be a great chiropractor. He's like, you've got great people skills. You really care about people. You're always trying to help people. You're a great storyteller. And really, he said, that's what chiropractic's about. It's about just sitting with people and listening to them, which is true. After 25 years in the profession, so many people that come in, they just need to be listened to. Mm-hmm. They just need to tell their story, and so that's what got me in.
Wow.
And I imagine being an athlete and being a patient, was it a natural transition?
Natural. It was a natural fit. I knew right away. I also, I know I'm sitting here with a great martial artist. No. Oh, come on now. And chiropractic, it's about body control. It's about symmetry. It's about movement. It's about, the Bruce Lee 1-inch punch. It's really being able to take all of that force and energy and direct it to a very, very specific place in a very controlled manner. So martial arts training as a kid, wrestling, body control, knowing how to feel someone's energy in their body and their weight, which, through jiu-jitsu, it's just as fundamental, and this is what I learned through wrestling. Yeah. And so it really, really came naturally, just that physical ability to go in and work with people, and to work with people 8 to 10 hours and to just feel like you were there for an hour.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's really cool.
So when you would do, when you do a session, like a chiropractic session, were those typically a half an hour long, 90 minutes? Like,
Okay.
How does that?
Okay, well, my path was a little bit different because early on in school, I was introduced to some great masters in the profession, and they had a profound influence on me. And one of the things they taught me was that, the whole world is hurting, the whole world is sick, and everybody needs help. And one of my mentors, Reggie Gold, said, if you go to a city where everybody's starving, you can open a Michelin star restaurant and serve 50, or you can open a soup kitchen and serve thousands. Mm-hmm. And so that was my philosophy in the practice and in the profession. So I knew that everybody needed help. Everybody had back pain, neck pain, something going on, and they needed help. So I said, look, instead of specializing me early on into neurology or these, concussion trauma injury, which a lot of chiropractors dedicate their time to, I did what is called high volume family practice. And, at the peak of my career, I was seeing 850 clients a week.
Wow.
Yeah. So I would be with a client. They would come in, they would be with me maybe a minute and a half. They would talk with my staff, they would talk with my assistants, but on the table with me, they'd be a minute to a minute and a half, just because I was there to get that job done. I was there to turn the lights on and move them on. I wasn't there for diagnosis, treatment, let me get you into therapy, all of these other things. That wasn't my philosophy.
Right.
Yeah, so it was.
You wanted to fix immediate pain, if I'm hearing you correctly.
No, I didn't want to fix immediate pain. What I wanted to do is I wanted to eliminate the blockage that was causing the pain.
Okay.
My job is to get the blockage out. I need to remove the interference between your brain, your nervous system, and your body. Then your body will do the rest.
Okay.
So that was what I was doing.
Clearing pathways.
Clearing out the channel. Get the pressure off the spine so that all the messages from the brain make it to the organs the way they need to make it. It's about performance. It's not about getting rid of pain, because I don't know why you're in pain. You can break your ankle. It needs to hurt. But if it's not healing, then there's blockage that needs to be removed.
Got it.
So that was my job. My job as a chiropractor is to eliminate the blockage that is not allowing your body to express its full 100% life potential.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've used the chiropractor I've always had very positive experiences with chiropractor. It's the same as and also with my daughter. My daughter is an athlete. She is a collegiate soccer player, and it was the same thing. You know, it was. And with the modern technology where kids are doing this all the time, like
without a doubt,
it's also. Are you noticing that is happening with patients a lot with.
Well, I mean, I'm quite far away now from traditional chiropractic, but you know, while I was in Spain, which I'm sure we'll get to that, was where I had my clinic for 24 years. I actually for 10 years ran probably Spain's largest center for working with kids with ADHD, autism, dyslexia, what's called a neurofunctional disconnection, and so much of that is postural.
Well, let's talk about that a little
Yeah,
bit. So how did you go from the U.S. to Barcelona, and what was that like?
Okay, well, I got out of chiropractic school. I knew I didn't want to be in the States. There was just, it's all regulation, it's all insurance. And I was watching my brother-in-law bitch about this all day. You know, I can only see somebody this amount of times. My assistant has to check their coverage. I was like, I'm not going to do that. I don't want someone to come in, you know, hey, hey, I'm drowning. Can you help me? Do you have coverage? You know, I can only swim halfway to you. I can throw you half of a buoy.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to do that. So a friend of mine in school I didn't know where I was going to go. I just know I didn't want to be in the States. And a friend of mine, her brother had a clinic in Seville, Spain. And she was praising Spain, how cool Spain was, and chiropractic had just gotten started there. And so I was like, wow, that could be cool. And I actually went to Guatemala for a year, which is another whole story for season 2 of the Venao show, living with the shaman and doing some amazing things in Guatemala. And I eventually went to Spain. I went to Zaragoza, Spain. And Zaragoza, it's the 4th largest city in Spain. It's halfway between Madrid and Barcelona. So that's actually where I was.
Okay.
I was there for 23 years and, did what I was supposed to do by the standards I was raised by, which was go marry a beautiful woman and build a huge practice and have 2.5 kids. And that's what I did. You know, I followed that program that I was taught through my education in the South in the 1970s and did that. So I was there for 23 years.
Wow.
Amazing.
What was it? So 23 years in Spain. I mean, at that point, did you live longer in Spain than you had in the United States? Or that's probably like a balance almost.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, almost. I graduated from chiropractic school. I was 27 years old.
Uh-huh.
And I went to Guatemala, and from Guatemala I went to Spain.
So you've lived over half of your life outside of the United States.
Right, yeah, without a doubt now. I've lived over half my life out of the U.S.
Wow. So have you lived in any other countries besides?
Well, I lived in Guatemala. I lived in Northern Ireland, I lived in Ballymena. I was actually there when the Omagh bomb went off. Some of your older listeners might know this. The younger ones will probably have to Google it. I was there. That was a whole nother story. I was there for a little over a year. I was working in a town called Ballymena. Had a chiropractic office there. It was amazing. You know, I had both sides. I had, you know, people pro Ireland coming in. I had people pro Union coming in. They would never come in at the same time. It was a really, really crazy experience. Was
that a pretty tense time too?
Oh, was it tense? It was. A bomb went off that killed 35 people outside of a shopping mall, and I was there. I mean, I was an hour and a half away. You know, you would get stopped on the streets. The second night I was there, I had a job offer. I went there. The second night I was there, I walked into a pub to have a beer, and this is actually a really funny story. I was sitting there having a pint, just kind of looking around Northern Ireland pub. I've never been to one, you know, and just it's like, wow, this is really neat.
Yeah, right.
Really neat.
An Irish pub in Ireland.
Yeah, it's like really.
I guess that just makes it a pub.
Yeah, this is like real. And of course, I'm drinking a Guinness. It was like, oh my God, that tastes nothing like the bottled crap that I'm drinking in the States.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there kind of chatting up the bartender and just being amazed by his beautiful accent. And there's these 2 big, rough-looking guys sitting in the corner. And they're the only other guys. And it's like 4 p.m. And one of them walks up, stands next to me, orders something, and he hears me. And he says, hi. And I say, hi. And he says, where are you from? And I said, oh, I'm from the States. And he's like, oh, what are you doing here? I said, oh, I've been hired. I'm a chiropractor. I'm going to be opening a clinic. And he's like, oh, okay. He said, what's your name? And I said, oh, my name's Aaron. And his look on his face changed. He said, Aaron. And I saw the bartender just freeze in front of me. I mean, the guy just stopped. And I was like, well, it's Aaron. And he said, it's an Irish name. And I was like, well, actually, no, Aaron is an Irish name. My name's Aaron. And I was named after Elvis Presley. It's Elvis Aaron Presley.
Okay.
My mom's a huge Elvis fan, and my mom wanted to name me Elvis, and my dad said no.
Elvis would have been cool too.
That would be cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But they named me Aaron, and the guy said, Aaron's an Irish name. And I said, no, my mom named me after Elvis Presley. And the guy was just looking at me, and he finally said, are you Catholic or Protestant? Right away, he asked me right to my face. And I mean, the bartender's eyes were just like, like an owl just looking at me. And I was like, wait a minute, this is not a comfortable question.
Yeah, right.
So at that time, and forgive me if my answer offends anyone, I said, actually, I'm a Jehovah's Witness. And if you've got time, I would like to invite your friend and you to a beer, and I would like to talk to you about some of our teachings. And he patted me on the back. He's like, no, man, we're good. And he went and he sat back down.
Right.
And we're sitting there, and the bartender looks at me and smiles, and he says, you're pretty lucky, in my worst Northern Irish accent.
Yeah.
And I said, why? He said, well, first of all, you're lucky that these two dumb bastards don't know that a Jehovah's Witness would never be in a pub drinking a pint.
Yeah. I was gonna. Like, that's a heck of an answer, I mean,
he was like, yeah, I was waiting on that answer.
Yeah.
And I was like, welcome to Northern Ireland.
Oh my
jeez, they were asking you to pick a side.
No, they were straight up, because that could have been an ass kicking.
They're
right
looking
there.
for a fight.
Yeah.
No, they're looking for a fight. I was, if I didn't give them the right answer, they were going to let me know I was in the wrong spot.
Wow.
And I was there for a year.
It's a real pub right there.
Oh, no, it was real, man. It was, when we were in Northern Ireland, it was real. I mean, they would have the march, the Orange Order March, where they would march on the streets, and the Protestants would march through the Catholic, and they're throwing rocks and bottles at them, and you had to park your car. You couldn't have cars out on the street at night. They'd set bonfires. They'd pull. I mean, it was crazy times. Oh. Crazy times. Beautiful. Loved it. Amazing. I was glad I was there, and I was glad to get out.
Wow.
And at that time.
That was a cool story.
Yeah.
So with the patients that you've seen in Guatemala, the patients that you've seen in America, the patients that you've seen in Northern Ireland, the patients that you've seen in Barcelona, is there a common denominator that you've found with people?
Yeah. So there are two common denominators. Number one is everybody has pain in their life. Everybody. To some degree. We all have something physical going on. That's the first one. The second common denominator is that we are all aware that the most of that pain is not of a physical origin, but we're just not ready to face the changes that we need to make in our lives for that pain to go away.
Right.
Those are the two common denominators around the world. Yeah.
Do you know, did you notice a common denominator with those patients as it pertained to joy and finding happiness?
Oh, without a doubt. It really has to do with the story that they're telling. And, stories are cultural. So the stories that people are telling in the U.S. are different than the stories that people are telling in Northern Ireland, and they're different than the stories that people are telling in Spain, and they're different than the stories people are telling in Guatemala. But at the end of the day, there is a story, and somewhere in that story, I'm either telling the story from the point of view that I'm the victim, I'm the hero, or I'm the perpetrator. But I'm telling that story from one of those three points of view. And it's cultural.
Right.
And so my job, really my job as a healer, 25 years ago when I started, and then the work that I do now, which maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later, is really helping people understand where are they telling that story from, and giving them their power back so they know you can change your story. You don't have to keep telling that story. Right. You can let that story go if it doesn't serve you anymore.
Yeah, I think we're noticing a lot of that happening right now in North America, where people are struggling with themselves, with their identity, with what they with what society wants them to do, what the internet's telling them to do, what their family's telling them to do, what their work's telling them what to do. And it's making people really confused and sad and agitated and stressed. And I think that's why a lot of people are looking at other ways of living to try to get back to that joy, try to get back to that happiness. And
I totally agree with you, Mo, because, there's a phrase that I was asked once. A student of mine asked me, she was writing a book on phrases on healing and wellness, and she asked me to contribute to her book. And the phrase that I gave her was, you can only guide as far as you've journeyed, and you can only heal as far as you have healed. Mm-hmm. So if you're destined and determined to become a great healer, get ready to suffer. For your own suffering is as necessary as it is inevitable. So, we are all going to suffer. The question is, for how long?
Right.
So what we're seeing in the world today is that, this younger generation, this iPhone, internet generation, they're going into it so quickly. They're going into this world of make-believe, of fantasy, of dress like me, look like me, be like me so quickly. It's shocking. But the positive side of that is they also get out of it that quickly. I was 45 years old when I discovered how truly miserable was in my life. There was a 10-year period in my life of total darkness. I was in the system, believing the system, thought that I was the cat's meow, had this massive clinic, was making all this money. And then I was suicidal, literally suicidal at the age of 34. Wow. Because I had all of those things, making $750,000 a year, married to a runway model, 4 houses, fancy cars. I was absolutely miserable, absolutely miserable. So the man that you see today, that's on the beach with my board, hanging out, I was not that man for many, 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 many years. Wow. So, now I dedicate my life to really helping people know that, hey, you can change that story and you can change it quickly, but don't bash on the old story. That's a part of you as well.
For sure.
My wife has a beautiful saying. She says, we're all 50% sons of God, and we're all 50% sons of bitches.
I like that.
Love them both.
Right.
Love them both equally.
Wow.
Love them both equally.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that part of the story with me, because when we first met at that party, my impression of you was, holy smokes, here's this guy that is a little bit older than me that looks like a supermodel. He's all ripped. He's on the beach with his board. He used to live in Barcelona. Now he lives here in Playa Venao. I'm thinking to myself, how lucky can I be? The fact that he traveled the world, and you told me about your practice in Barcelona, and the fact that you were here, and I just thought, how lucky am I to be in the same spot that this guy's at? He's already done half the work for me.
Wow. And it's really funny because, before this interview ever came about, I knew both of you guys as fathers. I knew who you guys were. Because I've been in this game a long time, and I watch people, and everybody comes in, and when you live in a small town, everybody wants to meet everybody, and everybody comes running in and tells you a story, and I didn't get a story from you, and I didn't get a story from Ben, neither one of you, but I knew who you guys were, and I knew your kids, I was like, well, no, these are good fathers. These are good men. These are good men.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we like to be judged on our merits of parenting.
Not all the time.
Yeah. No, you're both great fathers.
Oh,
so
thank you.
When you offered me the opportunity, I jumped right on it. And, it was funny because, when we met and I'm here with my son, and you got this cool son, and he's a good-looking surfer kid, and I didn't do this with my kids, I first 5 years of, if you speak to my son, he's amazing. He's 23, he lives in Madrid with his girlfriend, has a beautiful company. But, my relationship with him when he was 11, 12, 13, 14 was totally different. Struggling, divorced, fighting with him, fighting with his mother. He moved out, didn't want to speak to me. I have a half daughter that I haven't seen in 9 years who won't speak to me. Yeah, behind every smiling face, there's always a painful story. I can guarantee you that. There's always a painful story.
I know, I know that we were brought down to Panama because things weren't going great in North America for us. Like we were getting sick up there. The air was polluted, the water was polluted, the food was polluted, and we really felt it up there. And it wasn't until coming to Panama that we really kind of started to understand what normal was. What ground zero was for our bodies, so to speak. So was it the plan to move from Barcelona to Panama, or what was the transition from?
No, like I said, Barcelona, I was only going for class. I was teaching at the university.
Okay.
But I was living in Zaragoza, which is an hour and a half train ride. And so when I knew...
you were teaching chiropractic.
I was teaching chiropractic. I was teaching philosophy and personal development in the chiropractic university.
Okay.
So when I'd gotten divorced twice, and I just knew that I was not happy, and I was like, I'm not going to repeat this pattern again. I'm not just going to go. There was something in me that needed to change, and I met an amazing woman, a healer. A woman from the mountains of Colombia who had a small therapy practice in our town, and some people that I highly respected had spoken to me about this woman and her work, and I went and started seeing her. I became a client of hers, and she helped me break through some really deep core blocks, some wounds that I had from my childhood that were all about having this big practice, and I had to show the world how great I am, and it was all about trophies, and she really helped me break through that, so much so that I got a divorce and kind of just started rebuilding my life, and started dating this same woman, and Maria, who's now my wife, and we just kind of started looking at our lives, and I said, I stayed here for my kids, and they're getting older, and they really don't need me that much anymore. We got pandemic hit. We were on lockdown. They were 15 minutes away, but they couldn't come see me. We were seeing each other on Zoom, WhatsApp, FaceTime, and it was fine. And and I told Maria, I was like, we could really do this from anywhere in the world. And really, one of kind of the drops that really kind of overflowed the glass, and we really knew. The day they lifted the quarantine and my children could come see me, they came in, they were with me for 5 minutes, and they asked for money for beers so they could go hang out with their friends. And so I gave them each some money, and they split, and I just sat there laughing with Maria on the couch. And I was like...
Kids will be kids.
Yeah.
Beer money, yeah.
We could actually do Zoom and Venmo, and we got them covered pretty much at this age. And that's when her and I knew that our time in Europe is done. And so as soon as travel restrictions came up, I got on a plane and went to Mexico City. During COVID, I was doing some online teaching. There's a large chiropractic community in Mexico. There's 4 great universities in Mexico. And so I was invited to go do some teaching there and some speaking. So I went to Mexico and just loved it, and came back and sold my practice. Basically gave my practice away, gave it to my associate, and said, I will not live this life anymore. You can have it. Maria had a 3-month waiting list. She turned it over to 2 other therapists, and we got on a plane and we flew to Mexico City. We ended up in Puerto Escondido for the surf, and I was really starting to get into surfing. And we were in Puerto Escondido, Mexico for about 3 months. And curiously enough, I got a phone call from a father of my favorite student from the chiropractic university. I had a student, I had hundreds of students, but I had one student, a young man named Ben, from Israel, and he was my best student. I just loved this kid. And we had a father-son relationship. And, the school closed for COVID, and he had gone back to Tel Aviv, and we had stayed in touch. And his father called me and said, hey, I know you're in Mexico. I know you surf. and I'm taking Ben on a surfing trip, and I would love to surprise him, and it would be really cool if you could come for a week. And he said, I'll pay for everything. If you can get there, I'll pay. Wow. And I was like, hey, you can't say no to that.
Right? Yeah.
I said, where are we going? And he said, we're going to a place called Playa Venao, Panama. And so I spoke with Maria, and she was going to go to Colombia to see her mom. And so we set it up, and I got on a plane, and there was nothing on the internet. I knew nothing about Playa Venao. I just knew that I flew into Panama City and took this brutal 6-hour ride up, and I get to this beach town, and as soon as I get here, I'm greeted. They take me right to a bungalow at Venao Resort on the beach. And I was like, what is this place? Right, and then, sunset, shoulder high waves peeling in. And I remember I couldn't sleep that night, just traveling. And about 3 a.m. I was awake, and I walked down on the beach, and all the hair stood up. Hair stood up on my arms, and I knew I was going to be home forever. Wow. And I called Maria the next day, and a week later we flew back to Mexico. The owners of resort, Ami Uri, beautiful, beautiful men. They gave us this amazing deal and said, hey, why don't you come set up? They gave us permission to open a chiropractic studio in my room on their property.
Oh, wow.
Seeing people from the community. I mean, that's like a huge risk for
them.
Sure. And they were like, no, we want you here. Wow. And they were actually the ones that just opened the doors wide open for us. And we were there, and we didn't want to abuse on their hospitality, their graciousness. So we were there for about 2 months. And then I found this corner office, and, and the rest is history. And we've been here for 3 years now.
Wow.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, this is, the space is absolutely incredible. And isn't it amazing how Playa Venao just is a magnet for certain types of people, like people that like to create, people that like to heal, be with nature, interact with nature in a positive way. It really feels magnetic to those.
It is magnetic. I mean, if you look at look at just the world map, and you see North America comes down, and where does it connect to South America?
Right here.
Right here.
So true.
My wife is from the mountains of Colombia, and we go back quite often. We actually go to the Sierra Nevada of Santa Marta, on the Caribbean side of Colombia, and there are 4 indigenous tribes, pre-Columbian tribes, that still live on this mountain, and they still practice their indigenous culture. They haven't changed in thousands of years.
Wow.
The Ayahuascas, the Wiwas, the Kogis, and I don't remember the 4th one. And so they say that in their tradition, that mountain is the beating heart of Mother Earth, of Gaia, of Pachamama. And that if that is true, if it's the north of Colombia that's really the heartbeat of Mother Earth, well, this would be like the aortic valve. I mean, this is, Panama's right next to that. And this is the southernmost point of Panama. And I was actually reading an amazing book last month about Coyote Thunder, a Native American elder who walked in the early 1900s from Alaska to Tierra del Fuego, Argentina, Chile. And,
holy smokes.
And he speaks of walking through here, and this is sacred land. This was, it was and is very, very sacred, this space.
Wow.
And so, that's one of the reasons I feel that so many of us are being called back, and we all come together, because so many times, you'll meet people and you'll see them, and it's just like you've known each other forever, and it's been 5 minutes.
You nailed it there. I mean, it's instant friendships here.
Yeah.
It's, if you're willing to have a conversation with a stranger, you're gonna make friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to have dirty feet, you're gonna have a really good time.
Yeah. For me, I take it even one step further. I say that friendship is something that you work on, but brotherhood you remember immediately. And I have remembered more brothers and sisters in 3 years on this beach than I have in 50 years.
Wow.
I mean, there are people on this beach that are so close to my soul right now, and we've had 5 conversations, and it's just, the reason is that at the core, we're all the same. We all have the same values, and it's those core values that have brought us to this spot. So the story that you're telling about being a father of 3 and selling crypto and that's your story. But at your core, there's this beautiful soul who really just wants to be close to nature. And that's where we all find each other. We all connect.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I mean, I've made friends with people all over the world here, and we all like being barefoot in nature. We all like being, fathers, and it just works. And it's amazing how much we all have in common when we dissolve the labels.
Yeah, and that's all that's where we get into the stories that we're telling. What is the story that we're telling? And when we come down here, when I came down here, I'm a different man than I was 3 years ago. When I came down here, I still brought a lot of my story with me, and I wanted everyone to like me, and I wanted to be the super cool chiropractor, and I wanted to do all of these things, and then as you really start knowing people, and people just accept you for who you are, and you start letting go of these stories, and like, look, I don't need everybody to like me. As long as we respect each other, and you do your thing and I'll do my thing, and as long as we're not harming each other, we can all really get along. And this is something that happens, especially in a very small community, and when you're this far away from a big city, I mean, you're going to know everybody's shit really quickly.
Yes.
Yeah. And if it bothers you, that's your problem.
Right.
That's not their problem. It's your problem.
Right.
Yeah.
You were speaking before the podcast about this new space downstairs, and it just sounded so amazing. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
It's actually right around the corner. So we're in the. I always say, people say, "What's your address?" I say, "I'm in the back penthouse suite of the Venao Trade Center towers."
Right. That's a good.
Is like,
it's kind of a trade center. I go with that. Yeah.
And so, I moved into this space a little over 2 years ago, and at the front there was a pizzeria that was just kind of about to shut down, and they had a bakery, and so a really cool group of people who I know your audience will meet soon. John, his wife Brenna, amazing woman, and their good partner and friend Kashmir. They got the old pizzeria and they turned it into a coffee shop, which eventually became a coffee shop wellness center, because they really are keen on wellness and fitness, and which dialed in perfectly with my lifestyle. So I began doing some breath work with them, doing some training, using this engineering machine that can be talked about in a different one called a biocharger. And I began doing these things with them, and we saw that they were kind of cooped up in that space. So we opened up my space, because I'm here maybe 2 days a week, and let them begin bringing some of the clients over here. And as we did that, it really began opening up the community. So much so that there's a garden space behind us that was just full of trash. And we all sat together and said, this beautiful space, what could we do with this? And right at that time, a retired couple from Texas named Ron and Kimber rented the bottom space and turned it into a pottery studio. And so they had some rights to the garden as well, and we all came together and we created the Sacred Garden, which is what it is now, which is this beautiful spot, which has got these little kind of like cabanas where you can go and sit. It's open to the public, and you can, they take kids there. They're doing a little school called School of Light, and like this morning there were 7 kids, are all around 4 or 5 years of age, with one of the moms doing class. So we knew that there was just this need to reach out to the community, and about 2 years ago, my friend and mentor, Aviad Goff, who is an amazing, amazing business coach for CEOs around the world, he and I were speaking, and he asked me, he said, if money wasn't an issue, if you could do anything you want with your space, what would you do? What would you really like to do for your community? And I said, I would really like to open an orientation and integration center where people could come and just kind of get some guidance for free, and they could get some advice. And there's so many beautiful people with so many great ideas, and young people come through and they need advice, they need guidance. And we came up with this idea called Voice. Venao Orientation and Integration Center.
Oh, that was so cool. Yeah.
And so we spoke about this 2 years ago. And I guess about 2 months ago, our dear friend Lou Roth, who is actually the owner of this building, the property, all the way up to the beach, and they own the big hotel, beautiful Hotel El Sitio. She had just gotten back for her home country, which was having some difficulties. And so she just gotten back, and she came over to see us, and we had a talk, and we had a little meditation, and with the permission of my friends at Casa Venao, we used the biocharger, and I just told her about this vision, and she turned and she said, that whole front office space is empty. You can have it free of charge to do something for the community. So we are in this process now, and so I asked Brenna, as a mom, as a woman, and she represents Casa Venao. And then we have another friend, Leonela, who is an amazing yoga teacher, mother of two, really connected into the community, and really just kind of sat down and said, hey, how can we start bringing this space to life? And just now, we just got it painted, cleaned up. They brought in some rugs, some poofs, and I'm actually going to be doing my very first class, announcing it now, this Friday night, 7 p.m.
Wow.
My first class, School of Life, and just sharing experience, just so we can have a space where people can come in and listen and learn, and then there'll be a space at the end. I'll be talking a little bit about my experience. I'll be breaking each class down. It'll be once a week. I'll be doing it in English and in Spanish. I'll do it one night in English, then the next night in Spanish, and just sharing so that the space can start getting used, not for profit, just sharing wisdom with the community, and a place where we can come together and just keep growing as a community.
So amazing. Yeah.
That's
so cool.
And it's for an area, like one of the common denominators that I've noticed about Playa Venao is people come to Playa Venao searching for something, whether it's searching for their own health or searching for answers. And for you to provide this guidance, these classes to streamline that's incredible.
Thank you. I mean, this is what I've been called to do. Chiropractic has been great to me. I still have the studio. I've got my table. I just folded it up. I love chiropractic. I dedicate once a month. I go with. I have a great friend, Dr. Agustin de Gracia. He's an amazing medical doctor, and he and I go into some rural communities, and he trains and teaches nutrition to some of the local communities. And I take my table, I pop my table out, and everybody who wants to get worked on, we work on. Amazing. So I still get that. I love chiropractic, and I've done 500,000 adjustments. It's a part of my soul. But I have two former students who have a chiropractic studio now, 50 feet away, and I really kind of don't let them. They chose to take that path, and that's fine. They get to fulfill that need, and so I would rather dedicate my time to being of a different level of service to my community, which I believe is best done through speaking and teaching, which is what I'm doing now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and you taught chiropractic in Barcelona, so it just seems like that's a natural progression to teach here. If that's what fills your soul.
Without a doubt.
Oh, that's great. So, I just had, I totally just had a brain fart right there. I totally just had a brain fart right there. So, sorry about that.
What was that?
So, we have a lot of people that, I don't want to say a lot of people, but there's people that watch our show from North America and whatnot. Is there anything that, first off, a question that I'm dying to ask you is, what's your morning routine like? Because, you're a beautiful, strong man.
Thank you.
You're kind of living the dream for a lot of, you're living the dream. I know that you've had your fair amount of challenges and whatnot. What's your morning routine like now after?
Okay, I'm not going to recommend it to anyone. Like I said, my morning routine really, it works for me. So I'm usually up before 6 a.m. I've been blessed. I live in one of the most beautiful spots on the coast. Our house is right on the corner of the Pacific Ocean and the Orio River, overlooking a beach called Playa Venao, which is 4 kilometers of undeveloped beach with mangroves, with protected mangroves.
I've cleaned the beach over there a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the last house on the last corner is where we live.
Oh wow.
You know, the original owners, they let us move into their rental property, and then they sold the house. And these amazing 2 friends from LA, John and John, young John and older John. Hi guys. Amazing guys. They bought the house, and when we met, we just became really, really good friends. And you know, they're family now, and they just said, no, you guys have to stay there. So we live in this beautiful, small, 1-bedroom house, not much bigger than this office. It's called Casa Colibri, and then my wife works out of the house. And so this morning I got up, I was up, 5:45, and I'm a coffee guy. My wife's from the mountains of Colombia. You know, her father is a first-line coffee buyer. I mean, like Juan Valdez rides his mule to my father-in-law's shop. So, I mean, I am coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
So, I get up, I put the coffee on, and usually I'm up to see sunrise, and I do my spiritual practice. I get up and I do my gratitude work, just wake up. I have some different books I work with, and just kind of dial in. What am I feeling this morning? What am I thankful for? What am I grateful for this morning? And then, I grab my cup of coffee, and, I'll just go sit and watch the sunrise and just kind of dial in and really just start my day off just being thankful that I have another day.
For sure, yeah.
I'm here today.
It sounds to me like you're meditating in the morning, but is it a formal meditation,
Not
or
at
is
all,
it just
I got into working with kids with ADHD because of my ADHD. I'm as hyperactive as it gets. I saw you guys walk in. I saw you through the window, and I remembered that we had this interview. And I texted you this morning saying, "Okay, I'll see you guys later."
Yeah.
I would think I was about to paint the walls or something.
Right.
But for me, sitting and meditating has always been difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a great opportunity in my life. I've traveled the world, and I've studied with some great spiritual teachers. And one of the greatest meditation teachers I ever had, a gentleman by the name of Tom Heckel, he said, it's not about the practice, it's about the intention. It's all about the intention. He said, because I know people who can sit and close their eyes and breathe for 8 hours, but if their intention's not pure, they're not getting anything out of it. So my intention in the morning is just to connect with the gratitude and the grace of being a part of this living, breathing Mother Earth that I call my home and I call my mother. And I can get up and just be thankful for that. And sometimes that'll be a process that goes for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. And other times it's 5 minutes. And, a lot of mornings I'll get up and I'll walk out and I'll see the swell. And I'm gone.
You're just
I'm gone.
Ocean calls.
I'm gone. And a lot of times I'll be here on the beach. I'm 10 minutes away. And so a lot of times I'll be the first one out in the water here at Venao and just paddle out past the peak and just sit out there for a couple minutes and just kind of dial into this life and just be grateful and open my heart and catch a couple good waves. And it's 7 a.m. The schools are coming out and the tourists are coming out with their classes, and I'm done. I've had my fill. And I drive back home, and now my wife's up, and she's starting her day. And, one of the things that we do, and that is just so sacred, we call it café chisme. And chisme is the Spanish word for gossip. So we call it the morning coffee gossip. And this is every day. I sit and have at least a cup of coffee with my wife, and we just dial into the relationship.
Oh, that is so great to hear.
Yeah.
Because I think there's so many husbands and wives that just don't talk anymore.
Hey, it took me 3 marriages to get it right. So I'm not blaming anybody. I just know I didn't do that before. you know, this amazing woman, this amazing soul could be with any other guy that she chose, and yet this morning she chooses me again. She
Wow.
chooses my hyperactivity again. You know, she chooses to tell me 10 things to do today, knowing that I might do 2.
Yeah.
And that tomorrow, you know, she's going to have to go through the frustration of, you know, you were supposed to get that too, you know,
Yeah.
and yet she chooses me again. And it's just like, wow, you know, I get to be in this romance, you know, another day. This is how, you know, she's my best friend.
Yeah.
Why would I not want to start my day talking to my best friend?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about the work you did with the children with autism and ADHD. I mean, that's...
Yeah.
My mom was a teacher for 33 years, a kindergarten teacher. And
Dude,
I think she said...
For real?
Yeah.
Mine too.
No way.
Yeah, my mom was a kindergarten first
Wow.
grade teacher.
Well, maybe you might, maybe she had the same experience as my mother, but it wasn't until probably the last 5, maybe 10 years that she actually started having children with autism coming in, and it was almost just like this new. You never really heard the word.
Yeah.
You never really saw these children before, and I think the year she retired, from the year she started, she had seven kids with autism in her class, and it would just, and then I have some cousins with autism and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm just very interested in.
Well, now it's going to be 1 out of every 4 boys are going to be on the spectrum. If it's not 1 out of every 3. So my journey really started. I was extremely hyperactive, but I was raised in the woods in Tennessee, and you just went.
Yeah, that's what you
run
did.
out and run like a rabbit, and and be Davy Crockett.
Yeah,
that's
go
just what
climb
you
a
did.
tree.
Go climb a tree. And at school, PE was 2 hours. It was like PE. You had PE all day, and you were going in and going out, and so in my chiropractic clinic, like I said, I had a high volume family. I had really low fees. I had entire families coming in, and I was starting to work with kids. And parents were bringing their kids in, and they were saying, wow, my son's doing so much better in school. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that I was working on these kids, and they were getting better. And then that was cool. And then after I got divorced, I got remarried. And shortly into the marriage, my second wife started telling me the same characteristics about me that my first wife was telling me. And I was like, well, I mean, if it's one person telling you, I can just say that's easy, she's crazy. But when the second one told me the same thing, I was like, there's something going on inside of me. And I was already starting to see kids changing. And so I did an online test, and it was like 40 questions. And if you get over 20, you're possibly ADHD. And I scored 38 out of 40. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty solid.
Yeah.
And so I really was like, well, there's something going on in my brain, and that really got me interested in neurology, functional neurology, and what's going on. And I was in a program with this world-renowned doctor out of Harvard. His name's Ned Hollowell. I was in a training program with him for chiropractors. And then I studied with Dr. Yannick Pauly out of Lausanne, Switzerland, in a program that he created, working through neurology. And then eventually I landed on the doorsteps of probably the best specialist in the world today for childhood neurological disorders. His name's Dr. Robert Melillo. And Dr. Melillo founded, they have over 200 centers in the United States called Brain Balance Centers.
Wow.
And I actually studied extensively with him and really started understanding what's going on and what's going on inside of these children's brains. It's a hemispheric dysfunction. And people who are listening, people can argue this all they want, although they have to, you go online and the information's there. And what's happening is the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere of the brain aren't developing synchronistically. From 0 to 3, it's the right hemisphere of the brain that's really developing, because that's basic motor skills. That's understanding the big picture. It's smell, taste. This is what a child needs to survive.
Right.
After the age of 3, the left side of the brain, which is more details, it's linear. It's the right side is the forest. The left side is how many trees are there. that starts at 3, and it goes from about 3 to 6, then it crisscrosses back and forth. And so what we've seen in society today is that, kids are just pushed from such a young age into a logical, linear educational system. My kid's 2 and he's already computer programming. He's 3 and he speaks 4 languages. That's great, but his brain is not developing the right way. Kids are 1 year old and they've got iPhones.
Yeah.
And they haven't learned depth perception yet. And now they're not picking up on basic colors, and you've got 20 million pixel images on an iPhone in a 3-inch radius they're seeing. Their brain hasn't developed those skills. Our brains need to be looking at depth. Our brains need to be touching and feeling and learning limits and falling and getting up.
Yeah.
When we were kids, how did you learn how to jump a bicycle? By busting your teeth.
Yeah,
for sure.
Here, how do they learn?
Oh, yeah.
They've got 50 tries on their video game.
Yeah.
And you don't learn about gravity. You don't learn about pain. You don't learn about...
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, this is just something that's you talk about a pandemic. This is a pandemic, and no one's speaking about it. It's just so easy to medicate.
No, for sure.
And I saw this going on, and really what switched it for me, and what got me to start the program in Spain, I had this little kid called Ivan coming to see me, and his mother was bringing him to me, and he transformed just in a couple of visits. Beautiful young kid, extremely creative, and he would make his own comics, and he would draw. He was such a good artist, and he would bring me comic stories. And he disappeared. He quit coming in. And about 6 months later, his grandmother, who had originally brought him, came to see me for a checkup. And I asked her, I said, where's Ivan? I haven't seen him around. And she said, no, his parents got separated. He moved his mom now lives in a different neighborhood. She's in a different district, and we can't bring him. And I was like, oh, that's a shame. How's he doing? And she was like, just like before. Mm-hmm. And she was like, he's here. And I walked out, and he was sitting in the corner, hunched over, looking at a phone. And this kid that was just such creative master had gone back to where he was the first time I saw him almost a year and a half before. And I was like, I don't know what it is about what we're doing that helped him. I just know that it helped him because I know where he is now and he's not getting the care. And that's what really drove me to say, no, I need to figure all this out. And I started really studying. And I ran that center for probably about eight years.
Wow.
And that center's still running. It's in Zaragoza, and my former associate runs that center now. It's very successful.
I think that's great. Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like an escape these days, in a lot of ways too.
It's also escape for the parents.
Yes. Exactly. 100%.
It's escape for the parents.
Very easy.
I got burnt out on it. Actually, I walked out of it. I was like, I don't want any, because I was sick of the parents. I was sick of parents coming in and saying, fix my broken kid.
Right.
And they weren't doing any of the homework with their kids after the fact, because you can only do so much 1 hour a week.
Yeah.
And there's a practice and a methodology that has to happen afterwards. And that's the parents and the patient's responsibility to make sure that happens. And if it's not happening, it's...
Well, I know that, I know, Ben, you're a martial artist. I know that your kids are into martial arts. And if their dream, or you can even call it surfing, Mo, if your son wants to be a world champion surfer, he can't do 1 class a week of surfing.
Right.
He can't do it. It's not going to happen. He's going to have to get up at 5 a.m. He's going to have to work on his nutrition. He's going to have to train. He's going to be going to the gym. He's going to be learning theory, philosophy. He's going to be surfing. He's going to be running.
Breath work.
It's going to be 6 to 8 hours a day. That's life.
Yeah.
You can't have a kid that's hyperactive and think that you're going to sit him for 45 minutes with a specialist and that shit's going to go away.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In that program, we worked a lot on diet, because it's amazing how processed foods affect these kids, and through the gut biome, how it affects their brain function. And I had a mother tell me once, she was like, well, little Johnny, he's not going to, we're going to do everything but the diet because he only eats spaghetti. And I said to her, wow, that's amazing. And she said, what, they don't eat spaghetti? I said, no, that he's 7 years old and he can already get his money, go to the grocery store, buy spaghetti, come home and fix it. And she was like, he doesn't do that. I said, well, then who does?
Wow.
Who does it?
Yeah.
Stop freaking doing it.
Yeah.
Little Johnny, when he's hungry enough, I promise you,
Yeah.
he's going to eat cauliflower.
100%.
You get him hungry
That's our
enough.
You know, it's funny that you bring that up because with my son Charlie, when we moved to
Not
Panama,
that he's listening to you or anything.
right?
No, of course
just so the audience knows, my son's running the camera right now. That's on us. So, but when we moved to Panama, I was very concerned with the amount of white flour that he was eating, and he wasn't getting in enough fats and proteins. So I started making him eggs,
Yeah.
and he didn't like the eggs at first.
Yeah.
But then I started experimenting with the recipe a little bit, throwing a little salsa in there, maybe throwing a little bit of meat in there and whatnot. Now all of a sudden, the kid's eating eggs
Egg machine.
like once a day, and it's just a regular part of his proteins and fats.
That's right.
And the muscle that he's putting on and the performance that he has in surfing and jiu-jitsu has skyrocketed by just having, a balanced amount of fruits, vegetables, proteins, carbohydrates. It's
Without a
incredible.
doubt, it's fundamental, I mean, this is what we're made of, garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
And that's one of the things that all of us dial into so much down here. And one of the great things about, living in Panama is that we have such easy access to great food, to great fruit, great vegetables. But if you look at it, I've lived in so many different countries, and you can eat healthy everywhere. You just have to make it a priority.
For sure.
Everyone back in Spain, a lot of my friends were like, but real, organic fruits and vegetables are way too expensive. And I'm like, yeah, they could be, but you do spend a month, a year in a beach house, drinking cocktails. What if you just went for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
What if you spent some of that money on buying better quality produce and living, maybe you wouldn't need to go distract yourself with alcohol on the beach for a month if you were living a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah.
And we get to actually do that.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things I've noticed is that just living down here and my exposure to nature, my exposure to community, my exposure to good food, it has reduced my cravings all over the place because I'm more in touch with my body and what I'm feeling, and I just don't crave the sugars.
Yeah.
I don't crave the empty carbohydrates.
Yeah.
And I feel rewarded for it every night when I go to sleep.
Oh, without a doubt.
Being able to wake up,
sleep better,
like you early in the morning without an alarm clock. I feel incredible, and I want to, like you, I want to keep that going every single day because you feel it and you're grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I slip and I enjoy, but and I feel it the next day. Like last week, I had a great surf session, got out of the water. I knew my wife was doing something to the house, and I was like, I'm just going to go grab me a pizza. And I went, there's a great pizza place here on the beach.
Oh, there is. Yes, we know all about it.
We know all about it. And so,
what's up, Garablanca?
Yeah. And so, I went and had my 4-cheese pizza and a couple of beers, and it was great, and I loved it and had a great time. But the next morning, I was...
You feel it?
Yeah, I felt it. I felt it. And
Yeah.
of course, my wife there with that little sly smile,
Yeah.
like, did you have a good night last night? You're feeling good, huh?
For sure.
So is there anything that you miss from your past, from living in Barcelona, from living in Spain, from living in the United States?
Mo, I wish I could say there was, but they're all. It's just lessons I learned. My kids. That's always been kind of the hardest part. When I'm here, I miss them. When I'm with them, usually in about the 4th day, we really don't miss each other that much anymore. And it's kind of like fish after about 4 days. It's time to let it go.
For sure.
Those are great memories.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, if you hand me an amazing book, I read the whole Game of Thrones trilogy.
Sure.
And is there part of book 1 that I miss? Not at all, because book 3 is so damn good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I'm writing now for book 4, it's even better.
That's really
Yeah.
cool.
It's even better. So I wouldn't know there's really nothing about that I miss. It's just how all of that gets to influence me here and be part of the story that I'm writing here with you two guys on this couch today.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So what advice would you give to people that are maybe stuck in a rut, or they're looking to get out of the circles and the cycles that they're in, maybe in North America or Europe or other parts of the world where there's conflict going on?
Yeah.
What are some tips and tricks that could help people jumpstart their path?
Okay, so, this is what I dedicate my life to now. This is this process that I teach now and that I developed with my mentor. It's called Advanced Life Navigation. And what we teach is that, first of all, you have to understand that life is a journey, and you are navigating your journey. And so in navigation, anyone who's navigated knows that, if you're going to sail around the world, there's one south, there's one west, and there's one east, but there are two different norths. There's magnetic north, which is where the compass pulls to. And then there's true north, which is the actual North Pole, where the National Geographic Society 100 years ago put a pole or whatever. Now, if we leave Panama today and we head north, you go true north, I go magnetic north, we go in the same direction for thousands of miles, thousands of kilometers. But off the coast of Greenland, magnetic north and true north are 1,200 kilometers apart. Okay? I don't know how many miles that is, like 500 miles or something like that. That's a huge difference.
Yeah.
And life is the same way. We all start out on life going towards a direction called magnetic north. This is what your society told you to go to. You need to be this type of man. You need to have this type of family life. You need to have this type of job. You need to marry this type of woman. You need to drive this type of car.
Yeah.
And you need to go on this place on your vacation. And that's what they told us. And it's different in Chicago in the 1980s. It's different in Nashville, Tennessee in the 1970s. It's different in Barcelona, Spain in 2024. It's different everywhere. But, it's not necessarily what we as souls chose to do. And all of us inside of us have this inner child who dreams of doing something great with their life. Yet that greatness is always going to be measured by the society that we're born into or that we buy into. Okay? And so there's going to be a point where we become frustrated because that inner child isn't happy. That's when we need to stop and we need to listen and we need to ask ourselves, what is the outcome of this going to be 5 years from now if I don't make a change? More of the same? Another $100,000, another fancy car, another house on the beach,
Another couple of pounds?
another couple of pounds. Yeah, really,
Honestly.
is this what's awaiting me?
Yeah.
Or is there something inside of me that is that spark still alive? Where's it at? And, this is how we can really start developing and looking in and finding out what our path of greatness is. And our path of greatness is looking in and saying, what am I really passionate about? So when my dear friend and mentor, Dr. Lou Corletto, asked me this question 12 years ago when I was in a rut in my life, he said, Aaron, what are you passionate about? And I couldn't give him an answer. And I said, well, I'm passionate about my family. He said, well, that's bullshit. It's your family. You have to love them. What are you passionate about? I said, I'm passionate about my work. And he said, bullshit. You're not passionate about your work. You used to be passionate about your work. And I didn't have an answer. And he said, isn't it a shame? You're in your mid-40s. You have all the money and time in the world, and you have no idea what makes you happy. And so he gave me an exercise, and I'll share this exercise with everyone listening. And the exercise is this. He said, you just won an all-expenses-paid 2-week trip anywhere in the world. First class, 5-star hotel, all expenses paid 2 weeks. He said, and you get to pick where you go. He said, but there's only 2 catches. You have to go somewhere to do something, okay? He said, so you can't say, I'm going to Cancun. You can't say, I want to learn how to make the world's best margarita, and I'm going to go to Cancun to learn. He said, so you have to go do something, to learn to do something. He said, and the next thing is that someone's going with you. But it's not your wife and it's not your best friend. It's a world-class expert in that thing. So I'm going to Cancun with Pepe Suarez, who's the world's greatest margarita maker.
Yeah.
Whatever. He said, Aaron, where are you going and who are you going with? And it didn't take a second. I said, I'm going to Indonesia and I'm going surfing with Kelly Slater.
Ooh.
That's a good one.
That's a good
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
And he said, that's your passion.
Yeah.
And I said, Dr. Lou, I live inland. I live 3 hours from the closest ocean. I don't have a surfboard. I haven't surfed in 15 years. And, you know, how does that help me? He said, because the spark is still inside of you and you can blow on that spark. You've got internet. You've got surfing magazines. And so he explained to me a program of how I could bring that back into my life.
Wow.
And this is one of the things we teach now through Advanced Life Navigation. And so I knew that was in there.
Yeah.
And so I signed up for a surfing academy in San Sebastian. I ended up meeting, I had shoulder surgery. I couldn't pop up. My shoulder hurt too bad. I was like, well, I can't surf. And then one day I went with my second wife to her parents' beach house, and it was on the Mediterranean. There's no surf there. And I get there, and I'd been to the house 100 times. That day, there was an empty shop near the house that had been turned into a stand-up paddleboard school.
Oh.
And it was a former surfer from Barcelona. And I met him, and he said, you know, the waves here, you know, maybe they get a little over waist high on a good day, and you can't really surf them, but on a stand-up paddleboard, you can really catch a good ride. And so he introduced me to stand-up paddleboarding, you know, on a big 12-foot aircraft carrier. And I just started riding, and you know, here and then I started this process. I made a vision board with my partner Maria, and I had just big waves and pictures of people catching tubes, and you know, and this is my lifestyle now. You know, now I have.
Oh, that's incredible.
That's a really cool story. Yeah.
Talk about manifesting.
Yeah, you know, I've still got the vision board that Maria and I made. Because when we started dating, we both had been through the cycle, you know. There's a funny story, you know, we were on our first date, and she said, you know, she knew that I had gone through 2 divorces, and she said, look, if we're going to start talking about ex-lovers and partners and water under that bridge, she said, let's just say that a lot of rivers flown under this bridge and leave it at that. And I was like, yeah, let's just leave it at that.
That's nice. Yeah.
Let's just move forward. And we had been dating for about 2 months, and we knew that, man, there's something really special going on here. And we said, you know, let's build a dream together, and let's build a vision together of doing something together. Whereas even if we don't work out as a couple, we'll both be closer to our vision.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
And we actually went to a really nice hotel in Pamplona, and we spent a weekend creating a vision board. And we actually brought like 20 magazines, and we printed pictures in color, and we built this vision board. I still have it today in my house. And once a year, we do a ceremony, and we upgrade it.
Amazing.
I think from that original vision board that we designed 8 years ago, the only thing that is still waiting to make its way to me is my classic '68 Volkswagen camper.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I am waiting for the roads to get a little bit better in Venao.
Yeah, yeah.
So I asked her not to manifest too soon.
Right.
She is a gentle lady, and if she manifested before the roads get better, she might be angry with me.
That would be cool.
That's
though.
great.
That would be cool.
Yeah. So you know, and then this is the vision that we have, and then we just keep building
really
on that
neat.
vision and keep moving forward. You know, so circling back around to that question, you know, advice for people is, you know, play with your inner child, sit with your inner child, ask your inner child, what makes you happy? What's your place of joy? You know, I had a session this morning with a guy about my age, very successful. He's lives in Europe, and he's, he just is on this journey of life and trying to figure it out as well. And yesterday I was talking with a client of mine who's a multi-millionaire, owns hotels all over Los Angeles. The guy's 77 years old. He's miserable. And it's it's all about what is your greatest life story. And if a 77-year-old man can change his story, you can change your story.
For sure.
You can change your story. My mentor was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer on my birthday, August 9th of this year. He'll be back in 2 weeks. He's cancer free.
Wow.
And he didn't
Amazing.
do chemio. He just changed his story.
Wow.
So, I mean, miracles are real when we have the courage to change our story.
Yeah.
So, and it's our inner child that knows that story. That inner child is still there and is waiting to whisper to you. I tell a lot of my clients and a lot of my students, I say, you're creating a new company in your life. You want your inner child to be the president of that company. Because it's the president of a company that gives the vision, the dream. But you don't want the inner child to be the CEO. The CEO is 38-year-old Mo who actually has the life experience and makes the calls and says, okay, this is how much money we have, this is how we're going to finance it, and these are the steps we need to make. But it's the inner child who steps up and says, no, but we want to live on the beach. Okay, you want to live on the beach? Yes. Well, maybe you can't live on the beach this year, but during pandemic, I bought a surf skateboard, and 1 hour a day, every day I would go to the underground parking lot, and I would put on my headphones with my surf music playlist, Beach Boys, Bob Marley, Stick Figure, and I would practice. And I had a stick. It's actually made to practice having a paddle in your hand. And I think it's got like a big kahuna stick or something like that. It's got like a rubber ball on the bottom. So I was listening to surf music in a underground parking garage, practicing on my surf skate, knowing the day was coming when I would be doing that in the water.
That's awesome.
And we can do that. You can do that in Des Moines, Iowa today. Even if you're listening to this and you're sitting in an office building in Chicago working a 10-hour shift, you can have videos of backcountry freestyle skiing on your computer, and you can go to the gym and sign up and say, I know I'm going to get into shape because there's a trip to Sun Valley, Idaho in 6 months, and I'm signing up for that trip. I'm bringing this into my life. And that's going to give that job that, just the day before made no sense, and it was just, I got more money in my pocket, I'm going to go home and drink some more beers and buy a nicer car. No, you can actually say, I'm going to spend that money to go skiing to see if I really like it that much. I was working with a young lady last week who her dream is to live in Panama. She doesn't speak Spanish. And she was like, what can I do? Well, sign up for Spanish classes. And every time you don't want to go to that Spanish class, look at your pictures from your trip to Panama.
Right.
And let that be the motivation to get you to Spanish class, so that when you come down here the next time, you've got a leg up and you can say, no, now I'm bilingual, I'm close to it. Now my work options open up. All of these things open up. The universe, Pachamama, Mother Earth, call it whatever you want, is waiting to give you everything. All you have to do is ask and take a step forward to receive. But most of us don't do that.
Right.
That's very powerful. That's powerful. So we have some homework for you. We have a little bit of homework for the audience. If you're stuck right now, if you're kind of stuck in a rut, you don't know what to do, consider doing this. Wake up in the morning, at whatever time you wake up in the morning, and sit with a cup of coffee, sit with a cup of tea, whatever your beverage of choice is. Leave the phone in the bedroom, leave the phone somewhere else, and just sit with that beverage and breathe.
That's it.
And try not to think about anything for a while, or if you do, get all your thoughts out of your head, but maybe sit and just enjoy that cup of coffee, and then see what comes over you.
Yeah.
See what washes over you. I think that can be very, very powerful for just getting unstuck. At least have it be a step.
Yeah.
You might find some answers there.
You know, without a doubt. And, you know, obviously you're going to feel some warm, lovey stuff, and then immediately you're also going to feel some nasty, yucky, ugly stuff, which we all do. I mean, this happens every morning. These things come up, you know, and, you know, allow yourself to feel that, and allow yourself to say, okay, yeah, you know, but I'm still in the game, man.
Yeah.
You know, this cup of coffee, this cup of tea reminds me, I'm still alive. I'm still here. How many millions of people did not wake up for that cup of coffee today?
Right.
Millions. They didn't. They thought they were going to get it, and they didn't. And you know, you got it. You're in the game. You're getting dealt another round today.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to play those cards?
Yeah.
You know, I remember once I was watching, just, you know, strange reason, I don't know why, I was watching the last round of like the World Championship of Poker, and I remember this guy, the guy that won it, he had, I think it was, you know, 3 4s, and he won the whole thing, like a couple $1 million, 3 4s. And at the end, the interviewer, it was like on ESPN2, they said, you know, how do you win the World Championship of Poker with 3 4s? And the guy said something that had just stuck with me since then. He said, poker's like life. The people who have the best hands very seldom win. The people who make the most out of the hand that they're dealt will always win.
Wow. I'm
Yeah.
gonna remember that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, what was the hand you were dealt?
So true.
Yeah.
And dude, you're still in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're still in the game.
I
This
like
is
that.
this has been amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Yes,
We've
thank you.
learned so much.
Thank you.
Any final words? Any final thoughts to the audience?
I like to stay in the game.
Yeah, I'd like to stay in the
where
game
you're still
too.
in the game.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I like that the game's in Playa Venao
Yeah.
right now. At least for me.
Our game's here.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I love the fact that we found this playing field to play on, and the fact that every day we meet more and more just amazing people that are playing the game with us.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can, I'll close up with just a little story that is it was very significant for me. So back, I guess it was about 12 years ago, you know, I was going through my second marriage. It was a very rough time in my life. My business was on cruise control. You know, I was making all the money that I needed, and just basically, you know, going into the office, counting. I had 2 assistants, 1 or 2 assistants at that time, and I had just had the conversation with my friend about surfing, and so my ex-wife and I, we actually went to the beach, and I had rented a board, and I was going to go surfing, and her and I were arguing for the 10,000th time the same argument. I mean, it had gotten to the point where I would wake up and say, one day I woke up and I said, I'm sorry. And she said, what are you sorry for? And I said, pick one. You know, it was just arguing every day. And so I'm sitting on this beach in Cantabria, this beach in northern Spain, and I had the board laying next to me, and we were arguing about something and just going at it. And I looked out and I see this guy catch this beautiful wave, and he surfs it in, and he waves, and his wife or girlfriend or whoever's up on the shore, and she waves to him, and he comes out of the water and comes up, and she reaches into the cooler and cracks open a cold beer and hands it to him, and they have a kiss and sit down, and I'm just thinking, that son of a bitch. You know?
Dude, that guy's Superman.
I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
God, I wish I was that guy. And I remember feeling that and just seeing the situation. Why can't I be that guy? And so I guess about a year ago, sunset, I was in front of Surf Dojo. Beautiful sunset. It was, you know, there wasn't a lot of people in the water. It was one of those days. It was head high, offshores, cracking. You know, you got to be on your game to be out there. You need to know what you're doing.
Right.
And I was the only one in the water. You know, most other people were at the point. And I was in front of Surf Dojo, and I was catching, I got a couple of those Venao barrels that you can get into, but you can't get out of. But it's still, you're still getting up in it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a group of people gathering kind of on the beach for the sunset. And, they were all late 20s, early 30s. It looked like they're making a martini commercial or something.
Mm-hmm.
They all had their hats on and their cool beads.
Yeah, everybody looks
open
great.
shirt,
Yeah.
And then I'm waiting for a DJ to pop out or something.
Right.
And I just, I caught this one great last left and really wrote it in and went and laid my board down and put my stuff away. And I came walking back, and this dude walks up to me, and, guy in his early 30s, good-looking kid in really good shape. And he says, "Oh, my God, you're that guy." And I was like, "What?" I said, "Do we know each other?" He said, "No, you're that guy, those waves. That was you at the sunset. That was you." And I stopped. And I just smiled. And I said, "Yeah."
That was me.
That was, you're the guy.
I'm that guy now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so cool.
And I'm like, yeah, now I get to be that guy. And I was like, and that's something that, it's like every day, what does it mean? What does it mean on this beach? What does it mean to these young men, this young man filming this, that we had a beautiful interaction one day in the ocean, meeting your sons, meeting you two guys, maybe just a half a generation or so behind me. What does it mean to be that guy? Does it mean to be a cool guy on a surfboard, or does it mean to show up and actually to be there and, to reach out and to help people when they need it and to practice what you preach?
Yeah.
And know, that people are watching you.
Yeah.
And people are listening to you.
Yeah.
So be careful with what you're saying, and be careful with what you're doing, and, set a high standard and live up to it.
For sure.
And when you can't, forgive yourself, but try again the next day.
Yeah.
This has been so inspiring. I've
thank you.
gleaned so much from this conversation. It's been beautiful.
Thank you so much for your time. Oh, can I have a big hug?
Oh, yeah.
Thanks. Oh, thank you so much, Doc. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take Doc.
Listen, Ben and I were just having this conversation about how much we love having doctors for friends. So we always want to address them as doctor because it makes us feel good that we know a lot of smart people.
Oh, no. And I tell people all the time, they said, "You mind?" I said, "Those two stupid little letters cost me $100,000. That's $50,000 a letter.
Yeah.
That's $50,000 a letter."
That's so great.
But doctor, at the end of the day, doctor is Latin. And you know what it means in Latin?
What's that?
Teacher.
Ah.
So, to be a doctor means to be a teacher.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that's
so
great.
my goal is to be a doctor of life.
Yeah.
Amazing, yeah.
That's my goal.
Yeah. So if you'd like to meet Dr. Aaron Burt, if you'd like to attend any of Dr. Aaron Burt's classes, come on down to Playa Venao.
For sure.
We'll definitely we'll put you in contact. Is there a way that people can reach you?
Yeah, I'm not a huge social media guy. I realize now that this has to change.
We're not either.
Yeah. But I do have a website, which is advancedlifenavigation.com.
Okay.
And Instagram, a lot of people reach out, Dr._Aaron_Burt, and then through you guys.
Okay. We'll include all of that in the show notes.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure to update that all in the show notes. So if you guys go to the show notes, you'll be able to find the web address and find the Instagram link, and we'll get those up for you. So
Amazing.
thank you so much for your time
Thank you,
today. This
guys.
was amazing.
Thank you.
For sure.
All right. Perfect. All right. Well, more from the Playa Venao show a little bit later, and I think that's it for now.
I want to tell you a little bit about one of my favorite restaurants, and this is my go-to restaurant when somebody's in town. It's a special occasion, something like that. It's called Caleo's Mediterranean and Asian Food. Caleo's spelled COLEO''S.
Nice.
Caleo's is amazing. If you like Mediterranean food, if you like good healthy food, if you like Asian food, you have to check out Caleo's.
Yeah.
I know you like Caleo's.
Man, I had this pita shawarma thing the other day. It was incredible. I think it was like $8 or something, and I almost couldn't finish it. Between that and the fries I had with it, I was walking out with a just big old belly. It was great.
We ate at Caleo's last night.
Nice.
Yeah, we ate at Caleo's last night, and it's our Monday go-to spot after jiu-jitsu. because it's easy and we're so tired after jiu-jitsu that we just want some good healthy food, and that's where we go. Sometimes we'll eat there, sometimes we take it to go. It just kind of depends.
Yeah.
And what's great about Kaleo's is the folks that we live next to, that Charlie and I live next to, they're vegan. They actually turned us on to the place because they're vegan, we're not, and they have food for everybody.
Yeah.
So whether you're vegan, whether you're a carnivore, whether you're pescatarian, flexitarian, vegetarian,
They got something for you.
Yeah, they have something for you. And the food is absolutely delicious. My go-to is the pita kebab.
That's what it was, the pita kebab.
Oh, you get the pita kebab.
That's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I either get the pita kebab or I get the kebab plate, which is basically a pita kebab but with more sides. They do a great salad. Yeah, check out Kaleo's. You won't be disappointed at all, and it's a great place to bring a date too. So
Right on the main street.
Right on Main Drag, across the street from Playa Venao. You can't miss it. So check out Kaleo's. Well, we'd like to say thank you to Dr. Aaron Burt for joining us on the show. It was a tremendous interview. That was just a really special time.
Like I said, I gleaned so much from that. I didn't know anything about him, about his practice, about anything going into it, and I like that because then it saves it for the show. And yeah, what an incredible person! What an incredible story!
Yeah, it's if you're out surfing and you bump into Dr. Aaron, just say, hey, I saw your interview on the show.
Yeah.
It'll make your day and his day.
Yes.
Because he's a pretty cool dude.
And our day.
Yeah, it'll make our day too. That's pretty cool. So what do we have coming up this week? What's coming up this week for news and events?
Yeah, we were mentioning Carnivales is coming up. I think the 9th, if I'm not wrong. So soon.
Yeah, I saw a notice at the ATM machine at the bank that the bank's going to be closed, I think, on Saturday and Monday. So yeah, Carnival is happening very soon in the greater Pedicee, Playa Venao area. And if you don't know about Carnival, come down and check it out. It is something else. I think, what do they call it? It's
one of the biggest ones here, right? It's one of the biggest.
It's the biggest
holidays.
one in Panama.
Okay, and I haven't experienced it much other than I think we were at like one of the bowl releasings in Pedicee, where all the women had their beautiful like Panamanian dresses on.
Yeah,
all the guys were in their
garb.
cowboy suit riding the horses around, and then they let a bull out in the center square, and
yeah, there were people trying to wrestle the bull. Like I think you won if you were able to wrap your arms around the bull and wrestle the baby bull down.
It was wild. It was so much fun.
If you like a big party, you got to check out Carnival down in Panama. And that's all we're going to say about it because I don't want to say too much. I just want you to come down and experience it.
Yeah.
So your homework is this weekend, go to Pedicee and be part of the Carnival festivities.
There you go.
It will be an eye-opening experience. And when you're ready to come chill on the beach after partying hard in Pedicee, come on down to Playa Venao and
there'll be stuff going on
here.
Yeah,
there'll be plenty of stuff going on down here as well. So anyway, thanks for tuning in the show today, and we hope to see you in Panama sometime soon. All right, take care. Ciao.